Hey, it's me, Bastian. Welcome to the Beyond Best Practice podcast. Today, we're going to look at an interesting software patent case where MagicLeap lost a patent on an augmented reality headset. We're going to look at the patent, obviously. We're going to look at the decision revoking the patent, and we're going to see what we can learn from it. Let's jump right in. Okay, so this is the decision. It's called Consent Categories / MagicLeap. The patentee in this case is MagicLeap Incorporated. In case you don't know the company, MagicLeap is a US-based company which is known for its augmented reality and mixed reality headsets. So that's basically technology that, blends digital content over the physical world. So here's an example of their product from the website. This is the MagicLeap 2. Which is an augmented reality headset. And here's a video from their YouTube channel where you can see what you can do with these kinds of headsets, all sorts of funny stuff. As you can see, you can, overlay some virtual content over the real world here for entertainment purposes. You can also think of, more immersive shopping experiences, things like that. But also more, business related use cases are possible, of course. Think about, industrial applications, construction work, things like that, or even healthcare where, things like these could be used in surgery, for example. MagicLeap is actually a big player in this space. So according to Wikipedia, at some point in time, they raised $2.6 billion from popular investors like, for example, Google and Alibaba. And Forbes even estimated that MagicLeap was worth $4.5 billion at some point in time. What we are talking about here is this patent on a head-mounted display system configured to exchange biometric information. So this is an opposition appeal. For those of you not so familiar with the European patent system, let me briefly explain what that means. So maybe let's look at the title page of the patent. So this is a European patent. It was filed in 2017 and granted in October 2020, so roughly 3.5 years later, which is a normal timeline for European patent granting proceedings. Now, one special thing about the European patent system is that within 9 months after the grant of the patent, any third party is allowed to file an opposition. And this is basically a way to challenge the patent grant, So you can challenge the validity of any freshly granted patent within 9 months after the grant. The case then first goes to the opposition division at the European Patent Office, and the patent is really examined again. And then 3 things can basically happen. One possible outcome is that the opposition is completely unsuccessful. That means that the patent remains as granted, so it completely survives. The other extreme outcome is that the opposition is fully successful, which means that the patent is completely revoked. It is killed, right? And then there's a third option, which is some kind of a middle ground where the patent is not maintained as it was originally granted, but it still survives in a restricted form, in the sense that the patentee manages to amend the claims to overcome the additional objections raised during the opposition, right? Now, if either party is unhappy with the outcome of the opposition, then they can appeal to the boards of appeal, which is exactly what happened here. And then we have an appeal procedure where the whole case is considered again, this time by the appeal board. And then the appeal board renders a decision in the end, a final decision. And this is what happened here. This is the decision we have at hand right now. Another interesting fact about this opposition is that it is a strawman opposition, meaning that we do not really know who is the real opponent. But instead, the opposition was filed by a law firm rather than by a direct competitor. This is perfectly allowed in Europe and is a common tactic used by some companies to oppose other patents, but still keeping their real identity anonymous. Next, let's look at the actual patent we are looking at here. So, as I said, it's a European patent about a head-mounted display system configured to exchange biometric information. And as you will know, if you follow my channel, the legal scope of such a patent is not defined in the description or in the drawings, but in the claims, right? The name of the game is the claim. So let's briefly look into the claims. We have claim 1, a head-mounted display system, and this head-mounted display has several structural components. We have an image capture device, so essentially a camera. We have a display, and we have a hardware processor. And this processor is programmed to perform a number of here functional steps. So as you can see, the remainder of claim 1 is really functional algorithmic features performed by the processor. This is a typical format for an apparatus claim in a software-based invention where let's say the gist of the invention really happens not in the hardware, but in the algorithmic features, the behavior of the software running on the head-mounted display on the device. So there's a number of dependent claims, and then, as you can see, the claim set ends. So in this patent, we have claims directed only to the head-mounted display system. So we have only apparatus claims. I consider this suboptimal. So typically what you want to have is you want to also have an independent method claim, and most importantly in these kinds of inventions, a computer program claim, which you can get at the European Patent Office, and which allows you then to sue competitors which only provide the software. Because the problem with this claim set is that if you only have the apparatus claim like here, you can basically only sue, at least for direct infringement, competitors who actually manufacture devices, head-mounted displays in this case. So if you want to do it better, I invite you to join my Patenting AI masterclass, where you can learn how to draft strong software patent claims, link in the description. So, but back to the patent. So as a general overview, claim 1 is directed to a head-mounted display, which has certain structural components, and then also a user interface that presents a consent pop-up with multiple consent categories for sharing biometric data. We will look into the claim wording in a minute in more detail. And the actual, let's say, gist of the invention of this patent is that there is a mechanism to either, let's say, suppress transmission of certain collected biometric data if the wearer of the device does not consent, or in the other case, to allow transmission of the biometric data if the consent is given. So essentially, the invention here is aimed to provide, let's say, a structured way for users to manage how their biometric data can be shared. And you can see an example here in this patent drawing. So here you have this pop-up which is displayed in the head-mounted display, request for consent, and the user can decide whether he allows or not allows sharing of certain types, certain classes of biometric information. Makes sense, right? Because I mean, this kind of biometric data might involve sensitive information, like, you know, eye movements is noted here, so things like gaze direction, pupil size, fixations. You could also think about images of the user's environment. You could think about location data, or even here biometric data physiological measurements like, skin sensing, heart rate, pulse, blood pressure, things like that. So you obviously want to give the user a way to control which of this data is shared or not. Okay, so now that we have understood what the patent is all about, let's look at the actual decision by the Board of Appeal. Let's jump straight to the reasons. So the Board of Appeal said essentially the following. The opposition division identified features F143 to F148 as distinguishing features of Claim 1 over the closest prior RT1. These features are essentially what I just described to you, are those features of the claim which relate to presenting a user interface, a pop-up with consent categories, and then obtaining user consent via interactive buttons, and then controlling the data transmission based on the consent or not given by the user. So this was these were the relevant features discussed in this decision. Why only those features? Let's maybe briefly look at how the European patent system deals with these kinds of software-based inventions. It's basically the so-called convict approach. So what happens is, if you have an invention like this one, where you have a mix of technical and maybe non-technical features, what happens is that we do not discuss about patent eligibility at all in practice, because in this case you have claim 1 was an apparatus claim, right? It was directed to a head-mounted display, which is a technical device, and therefore under the European approach, this eligibility hurdle is met automatically because we have a technical system, right? So patent eligibility, no problem at all. But then the big challenge in the European patent system is inventive step, because there's a catch. The invention does not only have to be non-obvious, it does not only have to involve an inventive step, as we call it in Europe, but there's a special catch in that, according to the convict approach, only those features which contribute to the solution of a technical problem enter into the non-obviousness discussion. Purely non-technical features in the claim can be disregarded, and they are in fact just deleted from the claim, so to say, in the analysis, and only, let's say, the technical contribution over the prior art enters the non-obviousness discussion. So that's the special thing about how European patents are assessed, European software patents. Now, and that's why the opposition division, the appeal board here first defines which are now the distinguishing features, so which are the novel features over the closest prior art. And then the second step is to assess whether those distinguishing features actually provide a technical contribution, whether they actually solve a technical problem. If yes, they enter the non-obviousness discussion, and we will then have to discuss whether it is inventive. But if not, if the distinguishing features do not make a technical contribution, the case is basically over, without having any non-obviousness discussion in substance. So what did the board make of this case here? They say that the opponent argues, so in the opposition division, that the distinguishing features do not contribute to the technical character of the invention, as they merely define a business or administrative scheme and do not represent anything more than an abstract plan for allowing the wearer to choose categories for their personal data that they agree to share with a third party. So that was what the opponent, the strawman, argued in order to get rid of the patent. The opposition division was not convinced by this argument and argued that even though the distinguishing features related to a presentation of information, they credibly assisted the user in performing the technical task of transmitting or not transmitting biometric information by means of a continued and guided human-machine interaction process. So in this case here, during the first instance opposition, the opposition division actually sided with the patentee and said, no, this is all technical. This is all a perfectly technical invention, because although there is some information control going on here. This whole invention serves to assist the user in performing a technical task, namely the technical task of transmitting or not transmitting biometric information. And this is actually one, let's say, bucket where under the European case law, as such non-technical feature can still be considered technical. Namely, this is in the EPO guidelines about presentations of information, where it says that here, a feature defining a presentation of information produces a technical effect if it credibly assists the user in performing a technical task by means of a continued and or guided human-machine interaction process. So this is the argument that the opposition division made here in this decision. Good for the patentee in this case. But as it turns out, the appeal board does not agree with the opposition division. And here's what they are saying. They say, as the opponent rightly observed, the human-machine interaction in the case at hand does actually not control in any manner how the technical transmission of data actually takes place. This is the key observation by the appeal board. The user's consent does not change the way how information is technically transmitted. Instead, it merely gives the user's approval to the categories of information which can be shared with third parties. However, it is not a technical task to give consent to sharing information. So here the board makes the point that the task solved by the invention is not actually to transmit or not transmit biometric information, as argued by the opposition division, but the technical task which is actually solved here is the task which is actually solved here is to give consent to sharing of information. And this was not considered to be a technical task by the appeal board. And therefore, in the absence of a technical task, the opposition division's application of the test we were just looking at is to fail from the very beginning. Instead, as the opponent again rightly argues, the distinguishing features are merely the implementation of an administrative scheme which cannot contribute to the technical character of the invention. So, and this is basically the end of the line of argumentation of the appeal board here. So they conclude that the distinguishing features actually do not make a technical contribution. They are just a mere administrative scheme. And therefore, there is no technical delta over the prior art, which could even enter the non-obviousness discussion, and therefore claim 1 was considered not to involve an inventive step. End of story. This case actually reminds me of another case decided earlier by the boards of appeal, where they made an interesting demarcation between data privacy and data security, actually. Let's see if I can find the relevant passage from that description quickly. Yeah, here it is, exactly. So in that decision, the board has said that the problem of data privacy is not synonymous with data security. Data privacy concerns what information to share and not to share. Like in the case here, what biometric information should be shared or not. And data privacy is considered not a technical problem. On the other hand, data security, which would be technical, is about how to prevent unauthorized access to information. So that would be technical and could potentially lead to a patent, but data privacy concerns can generally not lead to a European patent. So back to our decision, that's basically the end of claim 1. The patentee also filed a series of auxiliary requests, but these basically died for the same reason. And so in the end, the opposition appeal was successful and the patent was revoked. Okay, what can we learn from this decision? So I think this decision nicely highlights, the general challenges when you are patenting innovations that involve both technological and more business administrative aspects. The decision suggests that for patentability, features must go beyond an abstract business or administrative concept, and instead you have to have a real technical impact. So 3 lessons I would like to highlight here. Lesson number 1, technical contribution is key in Europe. So when you're drafting a software patent, it is really crucial to emphasize how a technical problem, a hard technical problem is being solved, not just data sharing or how data is structured or presented to the user. So you have to ensure that the technical character of the invention is given through tangible, direct technical effects. In this case, the board noted that the user's consent did not change how the technical transmission of data took place. That was really the hinging point of this decision. And also that giving consent to share information is not a technical task. So therefore, one takeaway is that patent claims must demonstrate, a hard technical effect that goes beyond merely implementing a business idea or an administrative rule. Lesson number 2, avoid purely administrative features. So features related solely to things like user content or other business processes often do not or typically do not contribute to an inventive step. The appeal board explicitly stated in this decision that features related to a business or administrative scheme do not contribute to the technical character of an invention. So, another takeaway, therefore, is that patent claims should not focus on, the administrative or the business aspects of the invention, but really on the technical hard aspects that provide a novel technical solution. And lesson number 3, specifically with respect to these kinds of, user interface inventions, focus on how the human-machine interaction really controls the technical implementation of the device. So the board here found that the human-machine interaction is, in this case, it did not control how the technical transmission of data takes place. So the user's consent merely gave approval to which categories of data to share and which not to share. And the act of giving consent itself was not a technical task. So therefore, the patent claims in a European patent should really relate to user interaction, specifying how that interaction directly controls or modifies, the technical operation of the system. If you want to dive deeper into those topics, join my upcoming Patenting AI Masterclass. So this is a very compressed online workshop where you will learn in only 3 hours how to draft strong software patent claims. We're actually going to draft some claims together, in particular for AI innovations. I'm looking forward to this online seminar, link in the description. And other than that, please subscribe to my newsletter with regular insights into software patent cases like this one. Check out the show notes for all the links, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.